Well, guys, that was a very interesting Daytona 500, and I'm just gonna kind of talk about what I thought about the race and certain things, key moments of this. First of all, kudos to NASCAR for uh, going ahead and moving the race up an hour. Though, looking right now, maybe the race would have still been okay if they had started at the scheduled distance, but you know, you don't play in the what ifs per se. You just kind of go with your gut instinct and say, this is the biggest race of their season. I don't want affected by weather, so they moved it up. Even though I had to work for the first hour, I was at work for the first hour. Was able to sneak in here and there. Won't say it too loud. Not that anyone watches my stuff, but anyways, going after that, getting home and watching the rest of the race was, it was kind of interesting because they weren't doing the same thought. We thought from the get go they'll get three wide, 50% throttle the damn thing, and we'll just kind of be around 50% throttle the whole entire race, or at least till they had the pit. And they were still, though they were still saving fuel, they weren't doing it the same way I thought they would. And handling did become a factor a little bit. Kyle Busch, off four in the middle of the pack, lost control. Got into, I think it was Brad. I mean, he could have been a game ender for him, but still, you could see the cars not handling right. They were sliding up off turn four. Of course, it was really windy because of a storm system, a front that was approaching probably around 6:30, 7 o'clock. There were winds, 20, I don't know, 15 to 20 miles per hour, gust over 30. I mean, it was just really, really bad. And but between handling with the wind and just maybe overall grip, it really showed that they had to be careful. So I think that kind of led to why they weren't, one, run the bottom as I thought they would. Two, they were still saving fuel, but they all run the outside. So it kind of changed a little bit on how the field strategy was going to work, but it was still generally the same, especially when they got to stage three. But after that, once they got through the last pit stop, right, and we knew that that was going to be the game changer of all that. There was a lot of different people up front. McDowell, who stayed out, was just, I think, banking on caution, which he got. Though, I can tell you right now, I do understand why people complain about the wrecks at the end, right? Because they're not bump drafting anymore; they're slam drafting. They're knocking people out of the way, and there used to be a technique to all that. It used to be that drivers did care a little bit, and I have a feeling that once everyone sees the points after today, and then look like 20 races in and realize, man, if I just had been a little more patient at Daytona, maybe we would have been in a better position, right? Because of this chase format now, it is not as easy as just go and win a race and that's it, you're in. There's no win or in anymore. And so now they have to kind of be careful on how they race, just a little bit. I mean, yes, this is Daytona 500. If you're in contention, you're going to win. You want to go for the win. Go for the win at Daytona. So it's just sometimes, like, for instance, and I hate to say this, and yes, I am. You probably saying I'm a Chase Elliott fan and stuff like that, but I would say this to the 38, that if he had stayed behind Chase, he would have been better off in points. Now, I am not saying that 38 was going to Zane Smith, that he all of a sudden is going to rock off like top 10s the next 20 races, but maybe going into next week, which is another super speedway, you get another top 5. It puts you in a better position for the rest of the season, or at least the next 10 races, to maybe just knock out top 15s and just kind of collect those points enough to where yeah, you're going to slowly fall back, but it's a slow bleed versus a fast one. So that's kind of a what I think a lot of drivers are going to come out of this race in Daytona 500. But man, if I just had gotten a top five, maybe we've been better off the rest of the season, even from the first race. But still, we had that crazy finish at the end. So we got it wasn't grand check. It was 4 to go when they got the green back. And once they got back to green, uh, it was going to be either McDowell, who did stay out after that caution came out. They said he was like 3 to the good, because of the fuel saving they were doing, and they were in the back, and they were able to probably run only quarter throttle and save tons of fuel. So, which to me, if I'm NASCAR, I really want to look at this, because if McDowell could run the rest of that last stage without taking fuel, you got a problem, right? You really got a problem. Which and unfortunately didn't work out for him. His teammate Hocevar was trying to block on the last lap. He wasn't 100% up against the wall coming out of the tri-oval. Jones, I mean, granted, I don't know what Jones was really thinking besides just wrecking him, because there was not enough room there to sneak to the outside. But he hooks Hocevar. Hocevar bounces off the wall, flies across the track, and hits his teammate. So both him and his team, go flying through the infield there, going into one, which actually caused a bigger crash that we didn't see on Fox. I'll talk about Fox here in a little bit, but they wrecked there. I think even Blaney and other guys got caught up in that wreck. Then that just messed up the whole pack, and then Chase Elliott was able to get ahead. The 38 of Smith was able to push him forward. Right there, I didn't think Chase had it 100%. I knew that Dane was going to do something, that either he had to back off or try to some way push him all the way around the track from turn 2 all the way to the start-finish line, which you really can't do with these cars. They will detach from in the turn. And so he decided just to back up, hoping that the 43, or the 45, Reddick would go with him, which even I knew that was going to happen. The Reddick shoots to the outside, and out of nowhere, here comes Reddick and his teammate, Riley Herbst, to the outside. And he has a major run on Chase. Chase even said in his interview, I could have blocked, but I've been wrecked. Of course, then he says, I got wrecked anyway, so maybe I should have made the block anyways. But, hindsight's 2020. But he gets to the inside. Then Herbst tried to make it 3 wide, maybe get a photo finish of 3 wide, and here comes Brad with momentum on him. They make contact, and a huge crash pursues behind Reddick, and Tyler Reddick gets the win, wins the Daytona 500. Just unbelievable how that story goes, because last year didn't win a race. He was really not sure of what's going to happen this year, because this is his contract year. Not sure what was going to happen. And to start the season off with winning the Daytona 500 is huge. Of course, we talk about what happened in the offseason with the lawsuit between 23XI and NASCAR. And, of course, Michael Jordan being the owner. And that publicity is going to really grow that. But for Tyler Reddick, it means a lot for him, knowing that he could still win, and that even though he had an off year, that doesn't mean he's not a really good race car driver. And yes, I know super racing is a lot of luck, but you still got to have some skill. You got to learn how to make moves. You got to learn how to be in the right position. It's not just, when you hear all this chatter with the spotters, they're just giving information. The driver has to take that information and decide, should I go with the middle, the bottom, the top? What lane is going to help me? They still got to make a choice. Now, sometimes that choice is decided for you because of someone else's decision, but most of the time, even in super speedways, you have to make that choice. There's a gap. Should I take that gap? Should I just wait for the next lap? There's a lot of things that they still have control of. It's just when everyone else around you still, gets pushy and they start argy bargy. Is that what they people say? And they really start moving people around is when, okay, it's out of control. But Reddick had to be in the right spot, and he was. And thankfully, he had a teammate, Riley Herbst, which I mean, I couldn't believe that was him. I thought it was actually Ty Gibbs for some reason. Of course, they both had the same sponsor, so you can't really tell the difference until you see the number. And that's when I realized, oh, that was Riley Herbst that was pushing him. Of course, Riley Herbst did what he did there at the end and caused that wreck there with Brad and clips Chase there, who was going to at least probably finish third, or at least, I would say at least third. But then got clipped, and then Joey Logano got involved, which Joe Logano got an amazing run on that restart. Shoots to the outside. Even his teammate went with him. Well, his teammate was the first one, and then I think Chase and then Logano, and then everyone started using that top, which that proves to me that the handling of this track has changed, because that third lane with this car just doesn't work. And so I feel like that the handling of these cars is making the ability for the third lane at Daytona to work. Now, when we get to Talladega, the track still got way too much grip in it that handling will ever play a role. And that third lane just naturally happening is just not going to happen. You'll see 3 wide, you'll see 4 wide at Talladega. That's all going to be about fuel mileage. So once they go full throttle again, then it's expected to double lanes, and that's pretty much it. So, but we'll see. Maybe something will change. But from now, Daytona to Talladega, of course, next week is Atlanta. Definitely a fun race. Just, I do agree with people. I wish they would stop wrecking a lot. I know a lot of people want to blame NASCAR for the wrecks. This is the teams. These are the drivers. That's the driver's fault. They're going for a win. They have the choice. And now, because there is no incentive to get locked into a playoffs, it's still a choice now. Now it's more so on their hands to decide if they want to go for a win or get wrecked. That is their choice. And yeah, you can say, well, if the cars weren't handling good, or if these wouldn't happen, that they wouldn't wreck. Well, I don't think that's the case. There's a mentality in the driver's brain now that regardless of how the car reacts, even if they just say, let's jump back in the Gen 4 car and race a Daytona right now, and they have handling, they will push and shove to get to the win. It's not going to change because of the car. It's their driver mentality that has to change. They have to just say, is it really worth it? And if it is, then you're going to see a lot of wrecks. So that's just how it is. So hopefully we will see maybe better racing as they start seeing how much the points going to matter in this season. We might see even cleaner racing, hard racing, but clean racing. I know a lot of people are worried that because they're not going to race this aggressively because of the system, that they are going to it's going to be boring racing. No, I think they're still going to go for the win. They're just not going to put themselves at risk to cause a wreck. There's still people out there that are on the Team Chaos side. They just want to see wrecks. They don't care about seeing actually a good finish. And there's people that actually care about a good finish, but then some people complain that, well, it wasn't the finish I thought would happen. You don't know how a finish is going to end. I didn't know. I thought Chase was going to win the dang thing. And then as soon as you go into 4, Reddick shoots to the outside, passes 38, and then passes Chase, and then there's a wreck, and he wins. Right? I knew that Chase was not in a good position to win it because being the leader and 38 having a run and the 45 having a run and everyone else having a run, he was not the last car with momentum. I've always said this about Super Speedway. You have to be the last car that has the momentum on their side. And that was the 45. It was the last car. Now, maybe you could say the 6, but he got caught up because, man, he was hauling too. And he even said, man, I don't know if I would caught the 45, but it would be dang close. So really, Brad had the last momentum, just got caught up in a wreck. in theory, the 45 was the last car that had the momentum to the line, and that's how it played out. But guys, that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for watching and tuning in. And if you want to see more NASCAR content, consider subscribing. I'll be back for any major news that pops up. I know a lot of people always do the small sponsor news and stuff. I don't. I'll do more breaking news stuff and things that really, honestly, I mean, everything matters when it comes to news, but the real big things, any breaking news that comes out, I will give that to you guys. And yeah, that was fun. If I would give a rating, uh, 7 out of 10. I guess the wrecks kind of still hold you back just a little bit. The saving fuel is also another thing got fixed. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you for the next one.